She was sitting alone at the most expensive table in New York, wearing a dress she bought at a thrift store, trying to hide the tears in her eyes. Across the room, her ex-husband was toasting his new, wealthy fiancée, laughing about how he had left his deadbeat ex-wife behind. The humiliation was suffocating. She grabbed her purse to flee, to run away and never look back. But suddenly, a large, cold hand clamped over her wrist. She looked up into the darkest, most dangerous eyes she had ever seen. The man leaned in, his voice a terrifying whisper. "Don't run. They are watching me. If you want to survive tonight, you're going to pretend to be my wife, and you're going to dance with me right now." The chandeliers inside the grand ballroom of the Pierre Hotel on Fifth Avenue didn't just sparkle, they judged. Or at least, that was how it felt to Elena Vance. She sat at table 19, the table furthest from the bridal party, tucked near the swinging kitchen doors. Every time a waiter breezed past with a tray of filet mignon and truffle mash, the draft chilled her bare shoulders. Elena smoothed the fabric of her navy blue dress. It was a Diane von Furstenberg wrap dress, classic and elegant, but it was also 6 years old. She had bought it when she was still married, back when her life wasn't a frantic juggling act of overdue electric bills and arguments with lawyers. "Champagne, miss?" a waiter asked, pausing briefly. "No, thank you. Just water," Elena said, forcing a polite smile. She couldn't risk the headache. She had a double shift at the bakery tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. She shouldn't have come. That was the only thought cycling through her mind. She had only accepted the invitation because the bride, Jessica, was her childhood best friend. But Jessica had married into money, serious, old New York money, and the guest list reflected that. Elena felt like a smudge of dirt on a pristine white tablecloth, but the real reason her stomach was twisting into knots wasn't the wealth surrounding her. It was the man sitting at table 1, the VIP table, Richard Sterling, Rick. Her ex-husband looked immaculate in a bespoke charcoal Brioni suit. He was tan, fit, and smiling, that charming, shark-like smile that had once convinced Elena he was the love of her life. Next to him sat Vanessa, a 23-year-old model with legs that went on for days and a diamond on her finger the size of a quail egg. Elena took a sip of water, trying to look anywhere but at them. Well, if it isn't the ghost of mistakes past. Elena froze. The voice was oily and familiar. She looked up to see Rick standing over her table. Vanessa was clinging to his arm, looking bored. "Hello, Rick," Elena said, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. "Vanessa, you both look lovely." "And you look tired," Rick said, feigning concern as he swirled his scotch. "Is the bakery not doing well? I heard you had to let your assistant go. Shame. Maybe if you'd been this frugal when we were married, I wouldn't have had to leave." Vanessa giggled, a light, tinkling sound that grated on Elena's nerves. "Rick, be nice. Maybe she can take a doggy bag home for what's the kid's name again?" "Leo," Elena snapped, her eyes flashing with sudden heat. "His name is Leo. He's your stepson's half-brother, though I doubt you've ever met him." Rick's face hardened. "Don't start with the guilt trip, Elena. I sent the check. It's not my fault you can't manage a budget." He hadn't sent the check. The child support was 3 months late. Leo needed braces, and the heater in their Queens apartment was making a rattling noise that sounded like a dying engine. But Rick stood here, wearing a watch worth more than Elena's entire life, mocking her. "I'm not starting anything," Elena said, grabbing her clutch. "I was just leaving." "Good," Rick sneered, leaning down so only she could hear. "Because you're embarrassing yourself. Look at you. You don't belong here, Elena. You're a charity case. Go home to your cat and your crumbling apartment." Tears pricked the corners of her eyes, hot and stinging. He had won. Again, he always won because he had the money, the lawyers, and the cruelty required to wield them. Elena stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. She turned to rush toward the exit, her head down, desperate to escape before the first tear fell. She took 3 steps and collided with a wall. Not a wall, a chest. A very hard, very broad chest covered in impeccable black fabric. Elena gasped, stumbling back. "I'm so sorry." She looked up and up. The man standing in her path was terrifying. That was the first word that came to mind. He was tall, well over 6'3", with hair as black as ink, and a jawline that looked like it had been cut from granite. He wore a tuxedo that fit him so perfectly it looked like a second skin. But it was his eyes that stopped her breath. They were storm gray, cold, calculating, and currently locked onto hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. He didn't move out of her way. He didn't apologize. He just stared at her. Then his gaze flicked over her shoulder to where Rick was still smirking. The stranger's hand shot out, grabbing Elena's wrist. His grip was firm, possessive, but not painful. "Let go of me," Elena whispered, panic rising. "I need to leave." The man stepped closer, invading her personal space. He smelled of expensive leather, tobacco, and something metallic, like gun oil. He lowered his head, his lips brushing her ear. "You can't leave," he murmured, his voice a low rumble that vibrated in her chest. "See the two men by the kitchen doors, the ones in the gray suits? They are federal agents. And the three men by the main exit? They work for the Albanian mob." Elena's eyes widened. "What? What are you talking about?" "I'm trapped," the man said calmly, as if discussing the weather. "If I walk out alone, the feds arrest me. If I try the side exit, the Albanians shoot me. I need a distraction. I need a shield." He pulled back slightly to look her in the eye. "Pretend you're my wife," he commanded. "Smile at me, touch my face, and dance with me, right now." "I don't even know who you are," Elena hissed. "I'm the man who is going to save you from that pathetic excuse of an ex-husband," he replied smoothly. "I saw how he looked at you. You want to leave here with your head down, or do you want to leave on the arm of the most powerful man in this city?" Elena looked back at Rick. He was watching them, a confused frown replacing his smirk. She looked back at the stranger. He was dangerous, lethal, but in his eyes, she saw a strange kind of promise. "One dance," Elena breathed. "Make it convincing, Karina," he said. Lorenzo, Enzo, Valenti didn't wait for her to get ready. He pulled her into the center of the dance floor, just as the band struck up a slow, sultry jazz number. The transformation in his demeanor was instant and terrifyingly impressive. The cold, predator-like tension in his shoulders vanished, replaced by the relaxed, confident posture of a man deeply in love. He slid one hand around Elena's waist, pulling her flush against his body. The heat radiating from him was overwhelming. "Put your hand on my neck," Enzo instructed through a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Play with the hair at the nape of my neck. Make it look like you can't keep your hands off me." Elena's hand trembled as she reached up. His hair was soft, a stark contrast to the hardness of his face. "This is insane," she whispered. "Who are you?" "Lorenzo," he said, "but my friends call me Enzo. And right now, you are Mrs. Valenti. What is your name?" "Elena." "Elena," he tested the name, spinning her expertly. Her dress flared out, and for a moment, she felt weightless. "Listen to me carefully, Elena. The men in the gray suits are watching us. They are confused. They didn't know I was married. They are hesitating. Confusion is good. It buys me time." "Time for what?" "Time for my car to pull around to the terrace exit," Enzo said. He dipped her low, his face inches from hers. To the onlookers, it was a moment of intense passion. To Elena, it was a high-stakes tactical briefing. "When the song ends, we are going to walk to the terrace. You will laugh at my jokes. You will hold my arm. And we will get into the black SUV." "I can't just get in a car with you." Enzo pulled her back up, his chest brushing hers. "Look at your ex-husband, Elena." She glanced over Enzo's shoulder. Rick was staring, his mouth slightly open. He looked furious. He looked jealous. For the first time in years, Rick Sterling didn't look like the king of the world. He looked small. "He's wondering who I am," Enzo whispered. "He's wondering how his cast-off ex-wife landed a man wearing a $40,000 watch and a suit he couldn't afford in 3 lifetimes. Do you like that look on his face?" Elena felt a dark, vindictive thrill curl in her stomach. "Yes," she admitted. "I love it." Then, commit to the role, Enzo growled softly. Elena made a decision. For 5 minutes, she wouldn't be the struggling single mom. She would be the wife of a dangerous, powerful man. She smiled. A genuine, dazzling smile, and ran her fingers through Enzo's hair. She laughed at nothing, throwing her head back. The room watched. The whispers started. Who is that with Elena? Is that Lorenzo Valenti, the shipping magnate? Or they look obsessed with each other. As the music swelled to a crescendo, Rick couldn't take it anymore. He marched onto the dance floor, abandoning Vanessa. Elena! Rick barked, reaching out to grab her arm. Before Rick's fingers could even graze her skin, Enzo moved. It was a blur of motion. One moment Enzo was holding Elena. The next, he had intercepted Rick's hand, twisting it back with a sickening pop of cartilage. Rick yelped, dropping to one knee. The music stopped. The ballroom went silent. "I believe," Enzo said, his voice projecting across the silent room, calm and deadly, "that you are interrupting my wife." Rick looked up, red-faced and sweating. "Wife? She's not your wife. She's my ex. She's a nobody." Enzo didn't release Rick's hand. He applied a fraction more pressure, forcing Rick to bow lower. "To you, she may have been nobody. To me, she is everything. And if you ever approach her, speak to her, or look at her with disrespect again, I will buy every asset you own, burn it to the ground, and leave you destitute in the gutter. Do you understand, Mr. Sterling?" Yes, let go," Rick squealed. Enzo released him with a shove. Rick scrambled back, cradling his wrist, humiliated in front of half of New York's elite. Enzo turned to Elena, offering his arm as if nothing violent had just occurred. "Shall we, my love? The air in here has become stale." Elena's heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She took his arm. She felt the eyes of the FBI agents on them, weighing the risk of causing a scene in front of civilians. They stayed back. The marriage ruse had created enough hesitation. Enzo led her through the French doors onto the terrace. A sleek, armored black Cadillac Escalade screeched to a halt at the curb. The back door flew open. "Get in," Enzo said, his voice losing the playful romance and returning to cold command. My purse is inside," Elena stammered. "I'll buy you a new one. Get in, now." Elena looked back at the ballroom. She saw Rick being helped up by a waiter. She saw her old life, the fear, the scarcity, the bullying. Then she looked at the dark interior of the car. She climbed inside. Enzo slid in next to her, and the car peeled away before the door was even fully shut. As they merged into the chaotic New York traffic, Enzo pulled a phone from his pocket. "It's done," he said into the device. "I'm clear. But I have a civilian with me. We need to go to the safe house in the Hamptons. Prepare the guest wing." He hung up and looked at Elena. She was pressed against the door, trembling. "You're shaking," he observed. "You just broke my ex-husband's wrist," she said, "and you kidnapped me." "I didn't kidnap you. You walked out freely," Enzo corrected, pouring himself a drink from the car's crystal decanter. "And I didn't break his wrist. I just sprained it. He'll be fine." His ego, however, is terminal. He extended the glass to her. "Drink. You're going to need it. The FBI isn't going to stop looking just because we left the party. For the next 48 hours, until my lawyers clear up this mess with the indictment, you are officially Mrs. Valenti. And that means you are a target." Elena stared at the amber liquid. "I have a son. Leo. He's with a babysitter. I have to go home." Enzo's expression shifted. The mask of the cold mob boss slipped for a fraction of a second, revealing something human. "A child?" "Yes, he's 6. Enzo tapped the partition window. "Change of plans," he shouted to the driver. "Go to Queens. We pick up the boy first." He turned back to Elena. "If you are my wife, then he is my son, and Valentis protect their family, no matter how fake the family is." Elena realized then that she had stepped off a cliff. She wasn't just a florist anymore. She was an accessory to the most dangerous man in the city. And God help her, she felt safer in this armored car than she had felt in 6 years of marriage to Rick. The armored Cadillac Escalade looked like a spaceship landed in the middle of Astoria, Queens. The streetlights flickered, casting long, erratic shadows against the brick tenements that lined the block. It was 11:30 p.m., and the neighborhood was quiet, save for the distant wail of a police siren, a sound that usually made Elena flinch, but tonight, sitting next to Lorenzo Valenti, it felt oddly distant. "Which building?" Enzo asked. He hadn't let go of his phone since they left the city, barking orders in rapid-fire Italian to unseen subordinates. "The brick one on the left." 4B, Elena said, her hand on the door handle. "Please, just wait here. I'll grab him. It will take 2 minutes." Enzo signaled to the driver, a massive man named Marco, to stop. "Marco goes with you." "I don't need a bodyguard to get my son from the babysitter." "You are currently a person of interest in a federal investigation involving the Valenti crime family," Enzo said, his voice flat and non-negotiable. "And frankly, this neighborhood has poor sightlines." Marco goes. "I stay here to monitor the perimeter." Elena didn't have the energy to argue. She climbed out, the cool night air hitting her flushed skin. Marco, silent as a tombstone, and twice as heavy, fell in step behind her. They climbed the 4 flights of stairs. The elevator had been broken since 2019, and the scent of stale cooking oil and cleaning solvent grew stronger with every floor. When she unlocked the door to 4B, the contrast hit her hard. Inside, it was small, cluttered, but warm. Mrs. Gable, the elderly neighbor who watched Leo, was dozing on the worn sofa with the TV on low volume. "Elena?" Mrs. Gable blinked, sitting up. "You're back early." "I thought the wedding went until—" She stopped, her eyes widening as she saw Marco filling the doorway. "Oh, my heavens! Is everything all right?" "Everything is fine, Mrs. Gable," Elena lied, rushing past her to the bedroom. "My ride is waiting. I have to take Leo." She went into the tiny bedroom Leo slept in. He was curled up under a duvet printed with galaxies and stars, his thumb hovering near his mouth. He looked so small, so innocent. Guilt washed over Elena. She was dragging him out of his bed in the middle of the night to run away with a stranger. "Leo, baby," she whispered, stroking his hair. "Wake up. We have to go on an adventure." Leo stirred, his eyes fluttering open. "Mommy, is it school time?" "No, sweetie. It's a special trip. Come on." She wrapped him in a blanket and lifted him. He was getting heavy, but the adrenaline coursing through her veins gave her unnatural strength. She grabbed his backpack, stuffing a few sets of clothes and his favorite dinosaur toy inside. When they emerged back into the living room, Mrs. Gable was standing nervously by the kitchen. Elena pressed a $100 bill, her last emergency cash, into the woman's hand. "Thank you, Mrs. Gable. I'll call you." Down on the street, the atmosphere had shifted. The air felt tighter. As Elena buckled a sleepy Leo into the middle seat of the SUV, she noticed Enzo wasn't on his phone anymore. He was staring at the side mirror, his body coiled like a spring. "Get down," Enzo said quietly as soon as the door clicked shut. "What?" "Get down," he roared, shoving Elena's head toward her knees. He threw his own body over Leo just as the back window shattered. Crack, crack, crack. The sound was deafening inside the sealed cabin. The bulletproof glass spiderwebbed but held, stopping the rounds from penetrating. But the impact was like a hammer blow. "Go! Drive!" Enzo yelled. Marco floored the gas. The Escalade surged forward with a growl of torque, tires squealing against the asphalt. Elena screamed, clutching Leo's leg. Leo woke up fully, letting out a terrified wail. "Who are they?" Elena shrieked, looking up to see a dark sedan swerving behind them, a man hanging out of the passenger window with a suppressed pistol. "Albanians," Enzo grunted, pulling a Sig Sauer P226 from a hidden holster beneath his seat. He checked the chamber with practiced ease. They must have had a spotter at the hotel. They followed the car. "You said we were safe." "I said I was your best chance of survival. I didn't say it would be boring," Enzo retorted. He rolled down his window just an inch, enough to slide the barrel of his gun out. The car swerved violently around a corner onto Northern Boulevard. The pursuing sedan drifted wide, trying to close the gap. "Marco!" "Brake check," Enzo commanded. Marco slammed on the brakes. The heavy SUV came to a shuddering halt. The sedan behind them couldn't react in time. It slammed into the reinforced rear bumper of the Escalade, with a sickening crunch of metal. Before the Albanian driver could recover, Enzo fired 3 shots. He didn't aim for the men. He aimed for the engine block and the front tires. The sedan hissed, steam billowing from the hood as it slumped to the pavement, crippled. "Go," Enzo said calmly. The SUV took off again, leaving the wreckage behind. Enzo engaged the safety on his weapon and slid it back under the seat. He turned to look at Leo. The boy was trembling, eyes wide, staring at the man who had just fired a gun. The cabin was silent, save for the heavy breathing of the adults. Enzo's face softened. The killer vanished, replaced by a man who looked genuinely regretful. He reached into his tuxedo jacket pocket and pulled out a pristine, white silk handkerchief. "I am sorry about the noise, Piccolo," Enzo said to Leo, his voice surprisingly gentle. "The car had a flat tire. It makes a loud bang." Leo looked at his mother, then back at Enzo. "You have a gun." Elena held her breath. "I do," Enzo nodded solemnly. "I am a guard, a protector, like a knight." "Do you know knights?" Leo nodded slowly. "They fight dragons." "Exactly," Enzo said. "There was a dragon chasing us. But he is gone now. Go back to sleep. The castle is far away." Leo blinked, the metaphor seeming to satisfy his 6-year-old logic. He leaned his head against Elena's shoulder, exhaustion taking over fear. Elena stared at Enzo over her son's head. "A dragon," she mouthed. Enzo poured himself another drink, his hand perfectly steady. "Every story needs a villain, Elena. Better a dragon than a hitman." "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice trembling. "They know your car. They know my address." "We are going to the estate," Enzo said, leaning his head back against the leather seat and closing his eyes. "Sands Point. It's a fortress. No one gets in unless I want them to. And Elena?" "Yes." He opened one eye, the gray iris piercing in the dim light. "You did well. You didn't freeze. Most people freeze." "I have a child," she said fiercely, tightening her grip on Leo. "Moms don't get the luxury of freezing." Enzo studied her for a long moment, a flicker of respect passing over his features. "No," he murmured. "I suppose they don't." The Valenti estate was not a house. It was a statement. Located on the Gold Coast of Long Island, it sat on 10 acres of manicured land overlooking the Long Island Sound. As the Escalade passed through the 12-foot iron gates, Elena saw security cameras swivel to track them. Men with earpieces and assault rifles slung over their shoulders patrolled the perimeter with Rottweilers. "Is this your house?" Leo asked, pressing his nose against the glass. He had woken up as they crunched over the gravel driveway. "It is our house for now," Enzo corrected. The car stopped in front of a massive limestone mansion that looked like something out of The Great Gatsby, only with more security. A team of staff was already waiting on the steps. Enzo stepped out and offered a hand to Elena. She hesitated, then took it. His grip was warm, grounding her in the surreal reality. "Arthur," Enzo addressed the older man in a impeccable suit standing at the front. "Prepare the East Wing for Mrs. Valenti and her son. Get the boy some hot cocoa and whatever food he wants. Get a doctor to look at Mrs. Valenti. She has a bruise on her arm from the dance floor." Elena looked down. She hadn't even noticed the bruise where Rick had grabbed her, or perhaps where she had hit the door during the escape. "I'm fine," she said. "You are my wife," Enzo said, loud enough for the staff to hear. "You will be treated as such." As Leo was whisked away by a kindly-looking housekeeper named Maria, who promised him cookies, Elena turned to Enzo in the grand foyer. The ceilings were 30 feet high, adorned with frescoes. It was breathtaking, but it felt cold. "We need to talk," Elena said. "Now, without the audience." Enzo nodded and led her into his study. It was a dark, masculine room filled with mahogany bookshelves, the scent of cigar smoke, and a fireplace that was already roaring. He walked to his desk and tossed his phone down. "Sit," he offered. "I prefer to stand." Elena crossed her arms. "You endangered my son tonight. You dragged us into a war zone. I saved you from a life of mediocrity and a vengeful ex-husband, Enzo countered, leaning against his desk. Let's be realistic, Elena. You were drowning. I saw your shoes. I saw the panic in your eyes when Rick spoke to you. You have debts, don't you? Elena looked away, the shame burning her cheeks. That's none of your business. It became my business when I put a ring on your finger, metaphorically speaking. Enzo picked up a folder from his desk. I had my team run a background check on you while we drove. Efficient, aren't they? You had no right. Elena Vance, age 28, divorced. Outstanding loans totaling $45,000. Behind on rent. Leo needs orthodontics. And your bakery job pays you $15 an hour. Enzo tossed the folder back down. You are surviving, barely. Tonight the Albanians saw your face. They know you are with me. If I let you go, they will use you to get to me. They will kidnap Leo to force my hand. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. She gripped the back of a leather chair to steady herself. So I'm a prisoner? No, Enzo said, walking around the desk to stand in front of her. You are an employee, a partner. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He flipped it open. Inside sat a diamond ring that must have been 10 carats, an emerald-cut monster that caught the firelight. I need a wife, Elena, not just for tonight. My father's will has a clause. Control of the Valenti shipping empire only passes to me if I am settled and stable by my 35th birthday, which is in 3 weeks. The board of directors is trying to oust me. They say I am too volatile. Too focused on the streets. A wife, a respectable civilian wife with a child, softens my image. It makes me untouchable. He took the ring out of the box. Here is the deal, Enzo said, his voice businesslike but his eyes intense. You stay married to me for 1 year. You live here. You play the part in public. In private, you do what you want. I won't touch you. I won't come into your room. You are safe from me. And in return? Elena asked, her voice barely a whisper. In return, Enzo took her left hand. I pay off every debt you have tomorrow morning. I put $1 million in a trust fund for Leo. And I ensure that Rick Sterling never bothers you again. If he tries, I will ruin him legally and financially. Elena looked at the ring. Then she thought about the cold apartment. The overdue notices. Rick's smug face. Leo's future. 1 year. $1 million. Safety. But looking at Enzo, at the dangerous curve of his mouth and the power radiating off him, she wondered if safety was the right word. He was offering her a cage. A golden, diamond-encrusted cage, but a cage nonetheless. What about the Albanians? She asked. As my wife, you are under Valenti protection. To touch you is to declare war on the 5 families. No one will dare. Enzo slid the ring onto her finger. It was heavy. It fit perfectly. Do we have a deal, Mrs. Valenti? Elena looked up into his storm-gray eyes. She felt like she was signing a deal with the devil, but for Leo, she would sign in blood. Deal, she said. Enzo didn't smile. He just nodded, satisfied. Good. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we have a press conference. We have to tell the world how we fell in love. He turned to leave the room, but stopped at the door. Oh, and Elena? Yes? Don't go into the basement, he said, his voice dropping an octave. And don't ask about the business. The less you know, the longer you live. He closed the door, leaving her alone in the massive room, the diamond weighing down her hand like an anchor. Elena sank into the leather chair. She was safe. She was rich. And she was absolutely terrified. The next morning, Elena didn't wake up to the sound of garbage trucks backing up on 34th Avenue. She woke up to silence. Thick, velvet-draped silence. She sat up in a bed that was larger than her entire kitchen in Queens. The sheets were Egyptian cotton, cool, and impossibly soft. For a moment she panicked, forgetting where she was. Then the diamond on her finger flashed in the morning sun, heavy and blinding. Mrs. Valenti. A sharp knock on the door broke the spell. Come in, Elena called out, clutching the duvet to her chest. The door opened, and a squad of people marched in. Literally a squad. There were 3 women with rolling racks of clothes, a man holding a makeup kit that looked like a bomb disposal unit, and Enzo. Enzo was already dressed, wearing a navy 3-piece suit that made him look like he owned the oxygen in the room. He was holding a tablet and didn't look up as he spoke. "Good morning. You have 2 hours until the press conference. These are your stylists. They will make you look like a woman who has been married to a billionaire for a month, not a woman who just escaped Queens." Elena bristled. "Good morning to you too, Enzo. Is Leo okay?" "The boy is eating pancakes shaped like dinosaurs in the kitchen with Marco. He is fine," Enzo said, finally looking at her. His gaze swept over her bare shoulders, and for a split second, the professional mask slipped. His eyes darkened. "Pick something conservative but expensive. The narrative is that you are a virtuous woman who tamed the bad boy. Don't show too much skin. That's for my eyes only." The stylists giggled. Elena flushed. "You're enjoying this." "I enjoy winning," Enzo said simply, "and today we win the public opinion. Be ready at 10. The next 2 hours were a blur of hairspray, contouring, and silk. When Elena finally looked in the mirror, she didn't recognize herself. The woman staring back wore a cream-colored Chanel suit that screamed old money. Her hair was blown out in soft, expensive waves. Her makeup was flawless, hiding the dark circles from years of sleepless nights. She looked powerful. She looked like she belonged. When she walked down the grand staircase, Enzo was waiting at the bottom. He was checking his watch, a platinum Patek Philippe, but he stopped mid-motion when he saw her. He didn't say anything. He just stared. "Is it too much?" Elena asked, suddenly self-conscious. Enzo cleared his throat, adjusting his cufflinks. "No, it is adequate. Let's go." The press conference was held at the Valenti shipping headquarters in Lower Manhattan, a glass tower that pierced the sky. The room was packed with reporters, cameras flashing like strobe lights. As they walked onto the stage, Enzo took her hand. His grip was firm, his thumb stroking her palm in a slow, rhythmic circle. It was meant to calm her, but it only sent electricity shooting up her arm. "Just follow my lead," he whispered. They sat down. The questions started immediately. "Mr. Valenti, is it true you married in secret to avoid the board's vote of no confidence?" "Mrs. Valenti, who are you? Where did you come from?" "Is this a shotgun wedding?" "Is she pregnant?" Enzo leaned into the microphone, his expression bored but dangerous. "One at a time. And if anyone asks my wife an insulting question, they will be escorted out. By the window." A nervous laugh rippled through the room. "We met 6 months ago," Enzo lied effortlessly, "at a charity gala for the Metropolitan Museum. Elena spilled red wine on my shoes. I was going to have her thrown out, but then she insulted my tie. I knew immediately she was the only woman in New York brave enough to handle me." He looked at Elena, his eyes crinkling with a fake warmth that looked terrifyingly real. "She is the love of my life. And yes, she brings a son to our union, Leo. He is my son now, in every way that matters." A reporter from the New York Post stood up. "Mr. Valenti, sources say her ex-husband, Richard Sterling, claims you kidnapped her from a wedding last night. He says you are holding her against her will." The room went deadly silent. Enzo's face turned to stone. He didn't look at the reporter. He looked at the camera lens, staring directly into the souls of the millions watching at home. "Richard Sterling," Enzo said, savoring the name like a piece of gristle. "Mr. Sterling abandoned his wife and child years ago. He is a man who throws away treasure because he is too foolish to understand its value. If he has concerns, he is welcome to come to my home and discuss them. But I would advise him to bring a very good lawyer, and perhaps a priest." He turned to Elena. "Darling, do you feel kidnapped?" Elena leaned into the mic. She thought of Rick's sneer. She thought of the eviction notices. She looked at Enzo, who, despite the violence and the lies, had given her son dinosaur pancakes and safety. "My ex-husband," Elena said, her voice clear and strong, "is upset because he realized too late that he lost. I am exactly where I want to be. I am with a man who protects his family, not one who abandons it." Enzo looked at her, and this time, There was no acting. There was surprise and respect. He stood up, pulling her with him. No more questions. As they walked off stage, back into the safety of the corridor, Enzo didn't let go of her hand. He pulled her into a service elevator and hit the stop button. "That was," he started, his voice rough. "Adequate?" she teased, her heart racing. Enzo stepped closer, backing her against the metal wall. The air in the elevator grew hot. He placed a hand on the wall beside her head. "You are a natural liar, Elena," he murmured. "It's a dangerous skill." "I wasn't lying about Rick," she whispered. "He is a fool." Enzo stared at her lips. The tension was unbearable. For a second, Elena thought he was going to kiss her. She wanted him to kiss her. Instead, he reached out and tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "We have a lunch meeting with the board of directors," he said, stepping back and fixing his tie. "Don't let your guard down. They are worse than the reporters. They don't use microphones. They use poison." He hit the button, and the elevator started moving again. Elena let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. 2 weeks passed. Life at the Valenti estate fell into a strange, gilded routine. Elena would wake up, have breakfast with Leo and Enzo, who read the Financial Times while Leo explained the plot of Paw Patrol, and then spend the day managing the house staff or shopping, which mostly involved security teams escorting her to Madison Avenue to maintain appearances. But the real changes were happening in the quiet moments. One Tuesday evening, Elena walked into the library to find Enzo sitting on the rug with Leo. They were building a massive Lego castle. "No, Piccolo, the turret goes here," Enzo was saying seriously. "Use the sniper tower for structural support." "It's a wizard tower, Enzo, not a sniper tower," Leo giggled. Enzo looked up and saw Elena. He didn't scramble to get up or look embarrassed. He just smirked. "Your son has no appreciation for defensive architecture." Elena's heart squeezed. Leo hadn't laughed like that in years. Rick had never sat on the floor with him. Not once. "Dinner is ready," she said softly. "Maria made lasagna." "Excellent," Enzo said, standing up and hoisting Leo onto his shoulders effortlessly. "Let's go feed the troops." It was perfect. It was domestic. It was a lie. The crack in the facade appeared 3 days later at the annual Valenti Foundation Gala. The ballroom of the estate was filled with 200 of New York's elite, plus representatives from the other 4 families. It was a high-wire act of diplomacy. One wrong look could start a gang war. Elena wore a blood-red gown that clung to her curves like liquid fire. She stood by Enzo's side, greeting guests, playing the role of the devoted wife. "Don Viti," Enzo nodded to a short, stout man with cold eyes. "Thank you for coming." "Lorenzo," Viti smiled, revealing gold-capped teeth. "And this is the new bride. Lovely, a bit civilian, isn't she?" "She grounds me," Enzo said sharply. "Enjoy the wine, Luca." As Viti walked away, Enzo leaned into Elena. "Stay close to Marco tonight. Viti is smiling, but his men have been hijacking my trucks in Jersey. He's testing me." "I thought we were safe here," Elena whispered, scanning the room. "We are never safe, Elena. We just manage the risk." Halfway through the night, Elena went to the ladies' room to catch her breath. When she came out, the hallway was empty. The music from the ballroom sounded miles away. "Elena." She froze. She knew that voice. Rick stepped out from the shadows of an alcove. He wasn't wearing a tuxedo. He was wearing a waiter's uniform. His face was bruised, his arms still in a cast from Enzo's handshake at the wedding. "Rick, what are you doing here?" Elena hissed. "If Enzo sees you—" "Enzo is a dead man walking," Rick sneered, his eyes wild. "You stupid B times TCH. You have no idea what you've walked into. You think he loves you? He's using you!" "And you didn't?" Elena shot back. "Get out, Rick, before I call security." "I'm here to save you." Rick grabbed her arm, his fingers digging in hard. "I made a deal with Viti. If I open the service gate for his team, he promised to let me take you and the kid. We can start over, Elena, with Viti's money." Elena stared at him in horror. "You let them in? Here, where Leo is sleeping?" "Leo will be fine if you come with me now," Rick pulled her. "No!" Elena screamed, slapping him across the face. Rick snarled and raised his hand to strike her. "Thee, war whack!" A knife, a silver dinner knife, suddenly embedded itself in the wall, an inch from Rick's nose. Rick froze. Enzo walked down the hallway. He moved slowly, his hands in his pockets, but the air around him crackled with murderous intent. "I told you," Enzo said, his voice terrifyingly calm. "If you touched her again, I would burn you to the ground." "Enzo, wait!" Elena cried out. He opened the service gate. "Vidi's men are coming." Enzo didn't blink. He tapped his earpiece. "Code black. The service gate is compromised. Vidi made a move. Secure the boy. Lock down the ballroom." He looked at Rick. "You let wolves into my home?" "Aye," Rick stammered. Enzo didn't waste words. He pulled a silenced pistol from his jacket and fired one shot into Rick's leg. Rick screamed, collapsing to the floor. "That is for touching my wife," Enzo said. He stepped over Rick's writhing body and grabbed Elena's hand. "Run! To the library! The panic room is behind the bookshelf! Go!" "I'm not leaving you!" Elena yelled. "Do as I say!" Enzo roared, a vein pulsing in his neck. "Go to Leo!" Suddenly the glass windows at the end of the hall shattered. 3 men in tactical gear rappelled in. Enzo shoved Elena behind a marble pillar and opened fire. Pop, pop, pop! 2 men went down. The third returned fire. Bullets chipped the stone inches from Elena's face. Dust and debris filled the air. "Enzo! Go, Elena!" he shouted, reloading with practiced speed. "If you stay, you are a liability. Save our son." Our son. The words hit her harder than the bullets. Elena scrambled to her feet, kicking off her high heels. She sprinted down the hallway toward the stairs, the sound of gunfire erupting behind her. She didn't look back. She had to get to Leo, but as she reached the nursery door, she found it wide open. Her blood turned to ice. The room was empty. The bed was unmade. And on the pillow, pinned by a jagged dagger, was a note written on a cocktail napkin. "The Vidi family sends their regards." Elena fell to her knees, a scream tearing from her throat that shook the very foundations of the house. Leo was gone. The silence in the nursery was heavier than the gunfire, echoing from the floor below. Elena stared at the empty bed, her breath coming in jagged gasps. On the pillow, pinned by a dagger, was a cocktail napkin. "The Vidi family sends their regards." "Elena!" Enzo appeared in the doorway, blood dripping from a cut on his brow, a submachine gun in his hand. He saw the note, and his expression turned to ice. He didn't offer empty comfort. He grabbed her shoulders, grounding her. "Tears do not save children," he snarled, his voice rough with fury. "Bullets do. Are you a mother, or are you a victim? Choose now." The panic receded, replaced by a cold, hard knot of rage. Elena wiped her face. "I am his mother, and I want to kill them." Enzo nodded, dark approval in his eyes. "Then, let's go hunting." They took the Ferrari. Enzo drove like a madman, weaving through traffic while tracking a signal on his phone. "How do you know where they are?" Elena asked, clutching her seatbelt. "The Batman watch I gave Leo yesterday," Enzo said grimly. "It has a military-grade GPS tracker. They're heading to Republic Airport. Vidi wants to fly him out to leverage me for territory. We have 20 minutes. The tarmac. The private airfield was dark, illuminated only by the floodlights of a waiting Gulfstream jet. 3 black SUVs were parked near the stairs, and in the center of a circle of armed men, a small figure kicked and screamed. "Leo!" Elena gasped. Enzo killed the headlights, drifting the car behind a stack of shipping containers. "Stay here. Marco and I will flank them. When the shooting starts, keep your head down." "No," Elena said, reaching for the door. "If Rick sees you, he'll panic and use Leo as a shield. I'm going out there." "It's suicide." "It's a distraction," Elena argued fiercely. "Rick thinks I'm weak. He thinks I'm just a baker. He won't shoot me immediately. That buys you time." Enzo hesitated, looking at the fire in her eyes. The terrified woman from the wedding was gone. This was Mrs. Valenti. He handed her a tiny earpiece. "You have 30 seconds. When I say drop, you hit the ground. Do you understand? Elena stepped out. The wind whipped her red gown around her legs. She kicked off her heels and began to walk barefoot across the cold asphalt, straight toward the guns. Rick was the first to see her. He was holding Leo near the plane stairs. Luca Vitti stood nearby, looking bored. Well, Rick laughed nervously. Look who showed up! I told you she'd come, Luca. Mommy, Leo screamed. Let him go, Rick, Elena shouted, keeping her voice steady. It's over. Enzo has the airport surrounded. Vitti laughed dryly. Nice try, Signora, but we have the boy. Enzo surrenders, or the kid goes to an orphanage in Sicily. Elena ignored the mob boss and locked eyes with her ex-husband. Rick, look at him. Vitti isn't going to pay you. You're a liability. Once that plane takes off, do you really think there's a seat for you? Rick blinked, his smile faltering. He looked at Vitti. Boss, we have a deal, right? Vitti sighed, signaling to a guard behind Rick. You are annoying, Richard, and you are loud. The guard raised his gun at the back of Rick's head. Rick, duck! Elena screamed. Rick turned just as the gun fired. The bullet shattered the SUV window behind him. Panic erupted. Now, drop! Enzo's voice roared in her ear. Elena threw herself onto the asphalt. 2 shots rang out from the darkness. Precise, lethal sniper fire from Enzo. The guard who tried to kill Rick dropped dead. Rick, realizing he had been betrayed, made the first selfless choice of his life. He tackled Vitti, knocking the mob boss's aim off as he sprayed bullets toward Elena. Get down! Rick screamed, grappling with the man he had sold his soul to. It was enough of a distraction. Enzo emerged from the shadows, moving with terrifying speed. He didn't spray bullets, he placed them. 1 shot, 1 target. Vitti shoved Rick away and raised his weapon toward Elena, but he was too late. For my wife, Enzo said calmly from 10 feet away. He fired once. Luca Vitti fell backward, dead before he hit the ground. Silence descended on the tarmac. Elena scrambled toward the plane stairs where Leo was huddled. She pulled him into her arms, sobbing. I've got you, baby. The dragon is gone. Enzo stood over them, holstering his gun. He reached down and lifted Leo, burying his face in the boy's neck. You're safe, Piccolo. Nearby, Rick groaned, clutching a bleeding ear. He looked up at them, broken and defeated. Let the police have him, Elena said, looking at her ex-husband with pity rather than hate. He saved Leo at the end. Let him rot in a cell. The real vow. 3 months later, snow fell softly on the Valenti estate. Inside the library, a fire roared. Elena watched Leo showing Marco his new karate moves. The bruises of that night had faded, but the bond forged in the fire was unbreakable. Enzo walked in, handing her a glass of wine. The board vote was unanimous today, he said, sitting close to her on the sofa. I retain full control. The stable family man image worked. Congratulations, Elena smiled. So the contract is fulfilled? You have the company. Enzo set his glass down. He took her left hand, twisting the massive 10-carat diamond ring he had given her. The contract, Enzo said slowly, was for a fake wife. A distraction. But you ceased to be a distraction the moment you walked across that tarmac to save our son. He looked at her, his storm-gray eyes warm and open. You aren't my fake wife, Elena. You are my partner, the only person I trust with my life. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside wasn't a rock the size of a skating rink. It was a simple, elegant gold band. I want to void the contract, Enzo whispered, and make a new one. No end date, no terms. Just you, me, and Leo. For real this time. Will you marry me, Elena? Elena looked at the man who had kidnapped her, saved her, and loved her son as his own. Tears filled her eyes. Only if you promise to never make me wear Kevlar again. Enzo laughed, a rich sound that filled the room. I can't promise that, but I promise I'll always stand in front of you. Then yes, she whispered. Yes, Enzo. He slid the gold band onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Come here, wife, he growled playfully, pulling her into a kiss that tasted of forever. Across the room, Leo covered his eyes. Ew, gross. Enzo broke the kiss, resting his forehead against hers. Get used to it, kid, he smiled. This is the new normal. And that is the incredible story of Elena and Enzo. From a desperate single mom humiliated at a wedding to the queen of the New York underworld, Elena proved that sometimes the wrong turn leads to the right destination. Enzo thought he just needed a fake wife to save his business, but he ended up finding the one thing his money couldn't buy: a real family. It's a powerful reminder that love often shows up in the most dangerous packages, and that true strength isn't about never being afraid. It's about what you're willing to do when the people you love are on the line. If you enjoyed this Mafia romance filled with twists, drama, and sweet karma, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Share this video with a friend who loves a good romance drama. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next story.